In this video, we're going to make a little pipling from a Waybuloo, the pink one, Delay I think it might be called. So I've taken some pink fondant, which I'm just rolling into an oval shape for the head. It's quite a basic shape for their heads, and I'm doing it quite large for this one. Then for the body, she's got a pale pink dress, so I'm just mixing some pale pink for the body. And again, this is modelling paste, so I've rolled it into a cone shape and I'm just putting it against the head to check for size. Now they have got quite big heads in comparison to the bodies. And I'm just going to create a slight indentation around the neck. A bit of a curve, and then I'm taking the pink, the normal pink again, and I've just rolled a small sausage shape of it, which I'm going to stick in that indentation that I've made in the dress, which will create the neck for the little character. So you're just going to push that in the space that we've made, and I'm going to take a cocktail stick just to support the figure and run it through the neck and the dress. It doesn't want to come out of the bottom of the dress at the moment though. Now just make sure it won't stick out higher than the head, so I've snapped a bit off the top of the cocktail stick. Then I'm taking a flesh colour, again the modelling paste and fondant, and I've rolled it down into a circle, squashed it with my fingers, and I'm just pulling it bit by bit, sort of pinching it as I go along to create a bit of an oval shape. Now if you've got an oval cutter that's the right size, use that. Sometimes I find it easier just to do things by hand. Now when you've got it to the right size for the face, which is almost the same size as the head, stick it down using water and just smooth it down gently. Now using a balling tool, you're going to create 2 eye sockets. Now they're quite far to either side of the head of their eyes. And then again, using a tool or even a cocktail stick, just put in a little line where the mouth is for a little smile. Now for the ears, I've taken a ball of pink, which I've cut in half. And then I've made it into little triangles. So I've then done the same with the flesh colour, and you're going to stick the flesh colour triangle inside the pink colour triangle. And I've just trimmed a bit off the bottom so it's flat. So the same again for the other ear, little triangle of pink and a little triangle of flesh, which will stick in the middle. And you'll want to flatten it off at the bottom. Now this is so that it sticks nicely on the head. Okay, so go against the head. We're just going to stick that on with a bit of water. You might find it easier if you keep the head upright, whereas I've left mine lying down. But the ears will stick better if it is upright. So push them down into place. So I'm taking a bit of my blue that I've already got mixed up, and I'm just mixing it with a bit of white to make it a little bit paler for the flower that goes on her head. And when I've got it to the right colour, I'm just going to roll it out flat. And I'm going to use my flower cutter for this one. And using a bit of water, I'm going to stick it to her head, just next to her ear. And again, I'm taking a little bit of pale yellow, just rolling it into a tiny ball, and I'm going to stick that into the centre of the flower we've just made, using a bit of water, like that. Now take some white fondant, and you're going to roll 2 balls. Just make sure they're both the same size when you're doing this. And just check they fit properly before putting the water in. When they fit, obviously stick them in with water and just pat them down slightly with your fingers so that they don't protrude too much from the face. So I'm using my little Petal Craft powder palette, and I'm just brushing on with a dry brush a bit of pink for the blusher, and then ever so slightly a tiny bit around the edge of the face just to give it a bit of shading. So taking the black and a thin brush, you're just going to paint some little eyelashes on the top of the eye, so above the white eye socket that you've put on, just a few on either side. And then for the eye, the pupil, roll 2 small bits of light blue, flatten them with your finger, and you're just going to stick them in the centre of each eye again with a bit of water. Okay, so taking the black, with my fine brush again, I'm going to paint in the centres of the eyes in black on both eyes. And now taking the blue, I'm just going to mix it with a bit of water, and I'm just going to paint little dabs of it over the light blue that I'd already put on the eye, just to give it a bit more depth. You don't have to do this, but if you don't want, I just think it adds a bit more detail. There you go. So taking some pink, I'm going to roll a long sausage shape, nice and slim, and we're going to create two arms. So I'm going to hold it against the body for length and snip it where I think it wants to be. Now, do that for both arms. Then for the little hands, what we're going to do is put a little nick with the knife just in the end. Now, it'll be difficult for you to see on here, but I've just put a tiny little slit in the end and just prized it out then a little bit so that it looks like there's a thumb on the end of each hand. Then you're going to stick them to the body with a bit of water on either side and position them where you want to be. So I'm going like it is on the picture, so I've just pulled them out to the sides just a little bit. And then taking the same pink again, rolling it out nice and thin this time for the tail. And a little white bit that I'm rolling again nice and thin, and just wrapping that round the tail, cutting that off, and I'll just smooth it down, and that's just to create the tip of the tail. So when you're happy with that, when you've got it on neat enough, position it where you want it to go and cut it to the right length. Now I've stuck it around the front of the body here because it's so thin it might snap, so I've tried to stick it against something. But if it doesn't work, reposition it. So if you prefer it to go around the back, stick it around the back of the body instead. Have a play around and see where you think you like the look of it. When you've got it in place, you will need to leave that to dry then for a bit. So I'm just slotting the head on the top of the cocktail stick. And what I'm going to do is lay it back down and leave it to dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to make the legs. So starting with a round bit, I've rolled slightly a thick sausage shape, but when you're rolling it, just try and roll one end of it so you've got like a bit of a bulb left at one end, which will create your foot. And you just want to round the end off a little bit and then cut the longer bit down because you don't want too longer legs. So we've cut that down. So it's almost like the end of the big golf club shapes. I don't really know what their golf clubs are called, the big ones. So when you're happy with the shape, I'm going to stick them to the body. Now, because it's standing up this one, they're going to need some support. So I've slotted a cocktail stick through the leg so it comes out the bottom of my foot. Now, it's longer than the bottom of the foot so that I can stick this into the cake. This way my figure isn't going to topple over when it goes on the cake because it'll stick quite far in the cake. It'll just support it. Okay, so the legs are on, stuck on with a bit of water, and then the cocktail stick runs through the body a bit. Leave that to dry overnight before putting it on a cake. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to my channel.